Hello, hello, hello. It's another episode of Travel the World as a Speaker. I am so excited to be here because today we're going to talk about how to leave a bad impression. Last week we talked about how to leave a good impression, but leaving a bad impression can really screw up your speaking career. So we're going to talk about that today. And of course, the show is brought to you by iFind You Close. So what we do, we go out and research and we send speaking opportunities to you. You can go check us out at ifindyouclose.com. Oh, and while you're there, why don't you stop by and just get a free assessment on whether or not you can attract high-paid speaking gigs? I mean, come on. I mean, we all want to do that, right? We want to get paid to share our message, but we really do want to help people get on stage. So I'm going to go ahead and check my sound really quick. We are coming to you live here on YouTube and Instagram. And today, I won't be having any fancy graphics, so you can stay here on Instagram and participate. But if you have questions... If you have questions about anything, just put them in the comment box. And I didn't introduce myself. I am Phylecia Jones. I'm your host today. So we do a little interesting here. So we combined the two things that I really absolutely adore. And that is traveling and speaking. And then we talk about how you can leverage speaking so that you can travel. So I start off with a travel story, and then we get into our topic of how to leave a bad impression. Because as someone who booked speakers for about 4.5 years, I saw a lot of speakers that left a lot of bad impressions. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, let's go ahead and talk about our travel story of the day. Now, my travel story of the day is actually just kind of a throwback to last year. Now, this time last year, this was my very first time, very first time doing a live event. And it was in Orlando, Florida for iFind You Close. We did our very first live event, Pitch Lab. So excited about that. And I mean, it's kind of crazy that it's been a year. And yeah, it was like the week before everything kind of shut down here in the United States. So it was a rather tense week of people not going places, going to places, all those types of things. So I've been looking at the photos and all of the kind of the memories from a year ago. Now, I didn't get on the plane until it'll be Wednesday of this time last week when I actually left to go to Florida. But I was getting ready, just live event, last minute. Unfortunately I did have people who canceled at the last minute. So it was a really cool event. I really loved it, and to be honest. Yeah, to be honest, that was the last time I was on an airplane. As someone who pretty much runs through an airport on a regular basis, that was the last time I was on an airplane. So it kind of blows my mind that I haven't taken one of those kinds of trips in a while, because I love to travel. I absolutely love to travel. And it's been a very, it's been a long year. So I love traveling. I kind of don't miss the flying because, I always thought I'm not a germaphobe, but I was probably 2 steps away. I was like a cousin of a germaphobe. So I was very aware of the thing. So yeah, I'm always like that when it comes to airplanes. I wish I could get my own private jet, but all right, that's the travel story I have for you today, which is going to lead me into how to leave a bad impression as a speaker. Now, I was telling you about how I was on my way to Orlando getting ready to do my first live event. I was the main speaker, but I also had other speakers that were going to come in and, be on a panel of speaker coordinators, their experience as a speaker. And unfortunately, people had to cancel at the last minute, literally the day before the event, which is very, very stressful. So I'm not going to blame, anybody, because a lot of things were going on last year. We were just kind of peeking under the covers of coronavirus. So this is not to shame anybody, but in a regular day, in a regular everyday experience, yeah, I'm going to be shaming some folks. No, now, not to shame people, but it does lead into how to leave a bad impression as a speaker. So I'm going to give you 5 different things that I want you to avoid when it comes to leaving a bad impression. Now, a lot of this comes from being the person who booked speakers for 4.5 years for 2 organizations and having to interact with them, get them arranged, get them all ready to go the day of the event. So I was pretty much their point of contact. So I kind of got to stand back and see everything. And so the very first thing that I want to say, when you are a speaker, when you get the gig, when you've done all that work, when you've done all this work after, joining iFind You Close, we research the first part, you do all the work to pitch, the back and forth, and you get the gig. My question is, why would you want to leave a bad impression? I mean, come on, you put in all this work for this gig. Show up and be the best you can be. I mean, it sounds like the military commercial now, but yeah, be the best you can be that day, or at least just for a few hours. So the very first thing that can leave a bad impression as a speaker is showing up late. Woo! This happens. This happens. This happens. Now, I know there are things that are beyond our control in the world, but when somebody doesn't know the things that are beyond our control that are happening to you, it can cause the speaker coordinator, the event host, the meeting planner, the person who is responsible for you that day, it starts a little bit of stress. And if you start that type of stress, they start talking about you in a negative way. Now, remember, as a speaker coordinator, the speakers that are on stage and, how they act pretty much the entire day is a representation of the person that is your point of contact for that event. So if you make them look bad, they're looking bad for their boss or for their board of directors or for the team that they are responsible. They respond to. And I've been in that situation where somebody did show up late, and all eyes were on me, and it's like, okay, I will be texting, I will do all those things. And I emceed an event one time where the keynote speaker I think she literally showed up 2 minutes before she was supposed to go on, and I have to tell you, everybody was just stressed out because they weren't there. So if you really want to leave a bad impression, yeah, show up late. Show up late, and yeah, just don't do it, okay? The second thing when it comes to leaving a bad impression is being unprepared. Now, when I say unprepared, that can cross the gamut of so many things. When you get on stage and you start doing your talk and you look as if you don't know what you are doing. I have seen this before. It doesn't leave a good impression for anybody. I've seen people who were sleep deprived. I know this is going to be so weird, but you got to get sleep before you get on stage. And I've seen speakers who are sleep deprived get on stage and just fumble around with their talk. They looked unprepared. The people whose laptops they break. And I know these are things that are not in your control, but when things are happening, it goes fast. And so when your laptop breaks, your tech doesn't work, you don't have a backup, you don't know how to log in, you don't know how to do things, you don't. It puts people in a very stressful situation. The other thing that happens, when you don't come, I always say you need to be prepared with your bio so they can introduce you. When you don't send that ahead, when you change your talk, when you change your topic on the fly, now it better be good. Now, very, 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 very minute few people can get away with that. Changing a talk on the fly, and it better be good. But if you change your talk on the fly and it has nothing to do with what you got booked for, you're going to have some issues, okay? So that's the second thing, being unprepared. The third thing of leaving a bad impression is just being grumpy. Ooh, just grumpy. Now, I will admit I've had at least one event where I didn't like how things were going. So unfortunately, I got into a mood. And of course, we all get into moods, and there were things going on with the event. Not myself. I was prepared. I'm always prepared. But there were things going on in the event, and it kind of got me in a mood, and I had to go to the bathroom, get myself together, and kind of snap out of it, because I have to remember that my mood is going to be it's going to be seen by everybody. People read body language, facial impressions, all of that stuff. But when you're showing up grumpy, and you came grumpy, you are grumpy, you're grumpy doing your speech, and you're grumpy afterwards, people remember. They remember, okay? So if you want to leave a bad impression, go ahead and just be grumpy for the entire day. You won't get booked again. I'm just letting you know that. The other thing, number 4, how to leave a bad impression, not being present. I have been to events where, let's pretend like this is a phone, and I've seen people do this the whole time. The speaker. The whole time, just on their phone, on their phone. And then people ask them questions like, hey, what's your name? I'm busy right now. Or I've seen speakers that leave. Now, I'm not saying that you have to engage the entire time, but at least for the moments before you go on and right after, you have to be present. People remember that. I remember one of my clients when I was doing money coaching and I was helping her kind of get her finances straight, and I ran the budget for her live event. And she booked this big time speaker. I mean, like in the, $20,000 range speaker. And the guy shows up and he was not very present at all. I mean, just left a very bad impression on most people. He didn't speak to anyone. He kind of looked down at you. I mean, granted, he's like 6'4", I'm 5'2", but you know what I mean. He was just kind of not, I won't say he was grumpy, but he just wasn't, you could tell he wasn't present. He didn't look like he wanted to be there. But I guess at the end of the day, he got his money, he got on stage, he did his thing, and he made a lot of money, and then he left. So my thing is, I mean, if you want to be that type of speaker, that is totally up to you. Just remember, there are people in the audience that will talk about you forever, and that impression will last forever. And this has been 5 years later. I still remember that like it was yesterday, just being around a person who just wasn't present at an event. And the last thing is, and it kind of ties into the story I just told you, is being a diva. Being a diva. This is somebody who is ultra demanding and demanding from the moment they get there. And it's not so much that people don't want to help you at an event. It's not that people want to treat you like you are the showstopper, but it's the attitude you come in when you are acting like a diva. Like, I refuse to eat. I refuse to drink this kind of water. I don't want to talk to these people. I don't want to look at you. I don't want to be in the room. I don't want to talk. All these things, it just leaves a bad impression. So those were the 5 things that, and I'll repeat them, on how to leave a bad impression. Being late, being unprepared, being grumpy, not present, and just being a flat out diva. Now, what I really want you to pay attention to is that when you are out there speaking, the person who booked you, the person who hired you, is your client. Now, I know a lot of us, we think the audience is our client. No, the person who hired you is your client. Now, if it's a speaker coordinator like I was, now I wasn't the main event host. It wasn't my event, but I was put in the role of going out and gathering and collecting speakers. Now, I work for that other person, and so that other person is your client as well, but I'm your main point of contact. And your job as a speaker is to make your client happy. That means you bring your A game, you do what you do best with the audience, you leave a transformation, and you leave the best impression possible. Because when you look good, the person who booked you looks good, everybody praises them. Everybody praises them. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to do a good job as a speaker coordinator. But when you come in and you decide to be grumpy, you're late and you're not present, you're just a pure straight up diva, you're not being nice to people. As this person who hired you, I will get that for years to come. For years to come. Because of your bad impression, it made me look bad. Now my board of directors, the person who I report directly to, is side-eyeing me and questioning whether or not I can do my job. And when others are questioning if I can do my job, I'm probably not going to give you a good review. I'm not going to give you a good testimonial. I'm probably not going to refer you. Now, I've said this before. Remember, every gig leads to another one. And that person who booked you probably has more power to get you in front of another speaker coordinator than anybody else, because other people trust their judgment. So that's what I want you to do when you are out there on stage. Remember, your first job is to make your client happy, and your client is the person who booked you. That's it. It is the person who booked you. So you really have to make sure you are bringing your A game and you are leaving the best impression possible, the best impression. Because if you are definitely inside of an industry, they're going to hear about you, and they're going to hear about you sooner rather than later. So just always, always, always bring your A game. That's all I have for you today, and I hope this is going to just resonate in your head a little bit. Of course, you can go check out iFindYouClothes.com if you need help getting on stage so that you can leave better impressions. Otherwise, you just go ahead and join us over here. Subscribe to our Instagram channel, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to bring you some of these amazing nuggets that you can use inside of your speaking business and career so that you can just be better and you can leverage all of this so you can travel the world. So take care of yourself. I'm going to sign off here on Instagram. You know I appreciate you. And everyone else, take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.